Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Explainer. Grab your notebooks because today we are setting up a highly structured masterclass breakdown of the day's biggest current affairs. Our goal here is simple. We're going to explain each and everything comprehensively for your UPSC notes. We've got a lot of complex legal, environmental, and geopolitical updates to get through, and we'll be breaking them all down into crystal clear takeaways. So let's jump right in.
Here's our roadmap for today. First up, governance, looking at the RTI versus the DPDP Act. Second, environment, covering forest fires and river pollution. Third, geography, specifically mapping out Arunachal Pradesh. Fourth, economy, where we'll discuss UPI transaction charges. And finally, polity, wrapping up with the FSSA and the rules around anticipatory bail.
Okay, let's dive into Module 1, Governance, RTI versus DPDP. To really grasp the current tension between the right to know and data protection, we've got to look back at how we got here. It's actually a fascinating evolution. The philosophical roots of the right to information go way back to ancient times. Think Aristotle championing liberty and equality. Fast forward to India in 1975, and you have the landmark State of UP versus Rajnarayan case. The Supreme Court basically said the right to information was implicitly baked right into Article 19(1)(a), the freedom of speech and expression. I mean, you can't really express yourself if you don't know the facts, right? That momentum built up to the 1997 Shorey Committee, which finally paved the way for the statutory enactment of the RTI Act in 2005. It was a massive win for transparency.
But here's where it gets really interesting for your mains notes. That 2005 RTI landmark, it's now facing a brand new legal heavyweight, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, or DPDP Act. The Supreme Court is actually looking at how these two interact right now because we're looking at a fundamental clash between transparency and privacy. See, the DPDP Act amends Section 811J of the RTI Act. Under the old rules, personal info could still be disclosed if the public interest outweighed privacy concerns. But with this new amendment, public authorities can refuse to hand over information simply by saying it's personal in nature. Critics are arguing this gives the state some incredibly broad exemptions, potentially gutting the RTI Act's core mission of transparency. It is a classic legal tug-of-war.
Moving right along to Module 2, Environment, Forest Fires and Rivers.
Starting off with our forests, between 2013 and 2021, we saw a staggering 186% spike in detected Indian forest fires. That's a massive jump. So what's driving this? Well, the causes generally fall into two buckets, natural and anthropogenic. On the natural side, you've got lightning strikes, hotter temperatures from global warming, and dropping soil moisture. But let's be real, human or anthropogenic factors are playing a huge role here. Think unextinguished cigarette butts, abandoned campfires, and slash-and-burn agriculture, which is especially prevalent in northeastern India. To tackle this, a parliamentary standing committee recently pointed out a major flaw in our monitoring. We're heavily relying on foreign satellites that only pass over a few times a day. So, they're strongly pushing for India to launch a dedicated geostationary satellite to keep a 24/7 watch over the Himalayan region.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next major environmental hurdle, river pollution. Now, according to the 2023 Central Pollution Control Board report, there is a tiny bit of good news. Nationally, we've seen a marginal improvement, with the total number of polluted river stretches dropping from 311 to 296. But when you zoom in, certain states are still carrying a massive burden. Maharashtra is leading the pack, and not in a good way, with 54 polluted stretches. Then you've got Kerala with 31, followed by Madhya Pradesh and Manipur tied at 18 each, and Karnataka at 14. The data paints a pretty stark picture of where our conservation efforts really need to be focused.
All right, shifting gears to Module 3, Geography, Mapping Arunachal Pradesh.
Let's look at how recent geopolitical headlines can actually build out a fantastic prelims cheat sheet for you. You've probably seen the news about China attempting to rename parts of Arunachal Pradesh, which prompted India to formally name 27 locations on the official map along the line of actual control. From a geography and biodiversity standpoint, this state is an absolute goldmine for exam questions. You absolutely must lock down Namdapa National Park in your memory. It is globally unique because it hosts 4 big cats: the tiger, the leopard, the snow leopard, and the clouded leopard. There's no other place like it. You also need to know Muling National Park, home to the red panda, Paca Tiger Reserve, which is famous for its hornbill nest adoption program, and Kamlang, another crucial habitat for the snow leopard.
Beyond the wildlife, the topography here is defined by massive river systems and some highly strategic mountain passes. For your mapping practice, definitely focus on the Brahmaputra and its major tributaries, the Dibong, the Lohit, and the Subansiri rivers. As for those high-altitude mountain passes, make sure you can pinpoint Boom Law, Tulung Law, and the Tunga Pass on a map. Pinning these strategic markers down is absolutely crucial for tackling those geography-based objective questions.
Next up is Module 4, Economy, UPI Transaction Charges.
Let's talk digital money. Right now, there are proposed changes floating around regarding the Payment and Settlement Systems Act, and they might allow banks to levy a merchant discount rate, or MDR, on UPI transactions. We're looking at a proposed fee structure of around 0.3% to 0.5% on transactions over 2,000 rupees, which would mainly impact larger merchants. Now, as you know, since 2020, UPI has been practically free for us, heavily subsidized by the government. But here's the reality check. Transaction volumes have literally exploded into the billions. Because of that, the back-end costs, maintaining servers, running real-time fraud checks, managing the settlement infrastructure, have absolutely skyrocketed. It's sparking a very real, very pressing debate. Who should ultimately foot the bill for maintaining this massive digital backbone?
But wait, this isn't just a domestic debate over server costs. The plot thickens internationally. So why exactly is the U.S. objecting to India's UPI ecosystem? The U.S. Trade Representative has actually gone as far as classifying India's digital payment policies as a foreign policy trade barrier. This adds a fascinating geopolitical layer to our digital economy.
Here's the geopolitical paradox we're looking at. On one side of the coin, U.S. tech giants are crushing it in India. Firms like Google Pay and PhonePe are processing over 80% of all UPI volumes. But on the flip side, the traditional American credit card giants, your Visas and MasterCards, are losing immense market share. Why? Because Indian consumers understandably prefer the zero-fee UPI network. The U.S. is objecting because its electronic payment suppliers are claiming they simply can't compete on a level playing field when the alternative is essentially free. And by the way, India isn't alone in this. The U.S. has raised similar objections against domestic payment systems like Pix in Brazil, as well as systems in Indonesia and Vietnam. It's a massive global shift in digital finance.
And that brings us to our final section, Module 5, Polity, FSSAI, and Anticipatory Bail.
Let's start with the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, or FSSAI, which operates under the Ministry of Health. They've been in the news lately after the Bombay High Court actually cautions the FDA over suspending an Amazon retail food license while an appeal regarding allegedly expired food was still pending. Now, for your notes, you need to remember the FSSAI's 3 core initiatives. First, Eat Right India, promoting safe and wholesome eating habits. Second, RUCO, which stands for Repurposed Used Cooking Oil, a brilliant initiative turning old cooking oil into biodiesel. And third, FOSTAC, which handles food safety training and certification. Lock those 3 down. Next, let's pivot to a fundamental concept in the Code of Criminal Procedure that you need to be rock solid on: anticipatory bail. What is it exactly? Simply put, it's a legal direction issued by a high court or a court of session for the release of a person on bail, issued even before an arrest is actually made. It comes into play when a person apprehends or genuinely fears that they are going to be arrested for a non-bailable offense. It's basically a preemptive strike to protect personal liberty.
So the crucial point for your exam prep is how the Supreme Court has interpreted this power over the years. These landmark cases, they are absolute gold for precedent dropping in your mains answers. First, the Gurbaksh Singh Sibia case, where the court made a huge ruling that an FIR is not even mandatory to seek anticipatory bail. Then you have the state of MP versus Ramakrishna Balotia case, where the court drew a line in the sand, clarifying that anticipatory bail is not a fundamental right. And lastly, the Sushila Agrawal case, where the Supreme Court held that there are no strict time foundations on the validity of anticipatory bail, although courts do have the power to impose specific conditions. Memorize these 3 cases for sure.
Wow, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. From the intricate RTI versus DPDP debate to the geographic mapping of our borders, all the way to the shifting sands of digital economics. I want to leave you with a thought to prime you for your essay writing. As future administrators, how will you balance state security and digital growth without compromising citizen transparency and fundamental rights? It's like a giant puzzle, and it's one you'll be expected to solve. Think on that. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this comprehensively covered everything you need for today's current affairs notes. Keep your notes organized, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.